Food bloggers, hi, how are you today? Thank you so much for tuning in to the Eat Blog Talk podcast. This is the place for food bloggers to get information and inspiration to accelerate your blog's growth and ultimately help you to achieve your freedom, whether that's financial, personal, or professional. I'm Megan Porta. I have been a food blogger for 13 years, so I understand how isolating food blogging can be. I'm on a mission to motivate, inspire, and most importantly, let each and every food blogger, including you, know that you are heard and supported. This is probably one of the most valuable, timely, relevant, important SEO podcast episodes that I've ever recorded here on this podcast. I just got done with my chat with Carl Ross. He is from UKU Digital. And wow, he delivers so much relevant information on the topic of SEO, mainly talking about this question, is SEO dead? I'll give you a little spoiler. No, it is not dead. He talks to us about why he feels it's not dead and helps us see through the clouds that we're all in right now, the blinding amounts of information that are being thrown at us that make us feel confused and like we want to throw in the towel, honestly, and just sell our blogs and run for the hills. We really talk about so many subtopics of SEO that I'm just going to let you listen instead of telling you what we're going to talk about, because I know that so many of you are going to listen to this. It is very good. I highly recommend that every single food blogger who owns a food blog right now listen as soon as this is published. Enjoy it. And this episode is, of course, sponsored by RankIQ. Hello there, food bloggers. Are you wanting to tap into additional revenue and improve your site experience for your users? If you're saying yes to all of this, then Chicory might be a really great fit for you. Chicory is a leading monetization platform for food bloggers, enabling you to integrate highly relevant, shoppable ads into your recipe content and earn revenue from top CPG brands. Chicory's hyper-contextual ads and shoppable technology will help you improve your site experience and engagement, allowing your readers to go from inspiration to checkout in just a few clicks. Enjoy easy installation and ongoing access to the Chicory team at zero cost to you. Chicory makes it easy to track your earnings, optimize your blog content using recipe insights, and connect with its team. Here is a testimonial from a happy Chicory user. Quote, "Cooking and baking is my passion. Chicory makes it simple and easy for me to share that passion with the Where is My Spoon audience, providing a seamless purchasing journey for my readers and an effective monetization model for my blog." End quote. That is from Adina Beck from Where is My Spoon. Head over to eatblogtalk.com/resources, scroll down to the Chicory logo and click that button that says Learn More About Chicory. Or you can go to chicory.co/food bloggers to learn more and to sign up. Now back to the episode. Carl Ross is an engineer who spent many years in corporate technology consulting roles, which gave him a unique perspective on the application of technology, processes, and getting a return on your investments. It means he spent literally decades helping customers make sense of technology products. 20 years ago, Carl started building recipe websites as a side hustle. At one point, he had over 50 sites online, each generating revenue he was pretty pleased with. Then the Google Panda update tanked every single one of the sites, which was the right thing for it to do because they were very low quality, massively over-optimized sites that had been churned out en masse. They deserved to get buried deep, deep in the search results. Today, only a couple remain online, and Carl only uses them for SEO testing purposes. Fast forward to 2019, and he started offering SEO services, and the food blogging niche was an obvious fit. While Carl works with bloggers in many different niches, food bloggers are his bread and butter. Hello, Carl. Welcome back to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me back.
Yes, you're on the other side of the world, so you're starting your day, I think, right? And I'm ending my day.
Yes, it's 7:00 in the morning for me. I think it's about 4 in the afternoon or so for you. Yep.
Correct. Yep. This is not a time when I normally do interviews, so I feel a little off. You know how you get into the groove of doing things at a certain time. So hopefully I I stay with the SEO topic. I'm sure it'll be good. But we're going to talk about SEO today, right? It is
Absolutely.
a very, very hot topic currently for food bloggers, especially, I think.
Yes, for sure. For sure. There's been all kinds of updates and everything in the last kind of 6 to 9 months. And there's some sites are going up, some sites are going down. It's been a crazy time in SEO.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever seen a crazier time than this?
Yes, back in probably 10, 12, 13 years ago in the first rounds of the Panda Penguin updates from Google, it feels a lot like that.
Oh, okay.
Back in those days, I had a bunch of sites online and they kind of all got destroyed by Google at the time. Now, they were very low quality sites, so they should have been. But yeah, it is very, I haven't seen anything like this in probably a decade.
Well, let's talk about it because we were just chatting a little bit about how some food bloggers are like, I'm going to sell my site. I'm done. I want out. This is too much. I can't handle it. SEO's dead. What do I do? So can you just address that? Do you think SEO is dead?
Definitely not. Definitely not. I think sites have been impacted. Some sites have been very, very heavily impacted, which is really difficult to watch. But SEO as a traffic source, and SEO is search engine optimization. So we're trying to get traffic in from search engines. And unfortunately, because of Google's market share, Google has 90% plus market share of search engine searches. Really, we're talking about Google. But technically, SEO would equally apply to Bing and Yahoo, if anybody even uses that anymore. So yes, SEO, is search engines, but unfortunately, we really mean Google. And is SEO dead? Well, I think there's two ways that people can really answer that question for themselves. And one, does the general public still go to search engines when they're looking for recipes? Do they go and they type in chocolate cake recipe, for example? And the other question to answer is, does search engines and Google really, do they show recipe sites? Are they showing food blogs at the top of the Google results page? And if the answer to both of those questions is yes, then SEO is definitely not dead.
Yeah. And the answer is yes, you would say, right?
Absolutely yes. Hot tip, the answer is definitely yes. Subject to seasonal fluctuations, there's still the same number of food-related searches being done on Google. And Google is still showing food blogs at the top of the Google results. So the search volume is there. The food sites are still at the top, but there's things that have gone on that have, some sites have been demoted and then other sites have been promoted. The thing about search engines is it's, kind of a zero-sum game. If the search is still happening, and if one site goes down, that means that another site moves up and takes the place.
And then what about, I've noticed a lot of Quora and Reddit just kind of going up for a lot of recipe-related searches. Do you think that's going to continue? What's up with that?
It's hard to know what Google's going to do. They have done some sort of deal with Reddit, and we definitely do see Reddit for some search results. But I think you're going to add, we've got some screenshots here that I've taken recently. I think you're going to add in the show notes. And if you look at those screenshots, so for example, one of them is chocolate cake recipe. We don't see Quora, we don't see Reddit at the top of the page. So for food related searches, I'm not seeing Quora and Reddit, right at the top of the page, which is where the bulk of the clicks go anyways. There are other niches, there's other sort of search terms where they're more prominent. But as long as we don't see them at the very top of the food-related search, then it's still okay.
Do you think from the user standpoint that these are actually helpful? Speaking of Reddit and Quora, I feel like if I'm looking for a recipe, that is the last place I would personally click.
Exactly. No, I think for food bloggers, not at all. It's not helpful. There's so many examples now of, basically trolls who've been posting stuff on Reddit in the last decade, and that stuff is getting surfaced. I mean, to cook a dish properly, to follow a recipe, you need really detailed instructions. You need the pictures. You need all of the things that food bloggers are doing. And some random person on Reddit 10 years ago who, made some post really that's not going to be helpful.
Yeah, exactly. My thoughts.
And so far, so good. I'm not seeing Quora and Reddit at the top of food related searches. There's definitely other niches where they're right at the top, but I'm not seeing that in the food space.
So what you're saying instead, you're seeing that if you maybe have a keyword that you've had forever and you've gone down, another food blog has likely gone up. So it's like you're switching positions with other food bloggers.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And why is that?
Well, it's all the Google algorithm updates that we've had. In the last 9 months, we've had the September 23 helpful content update. We had a whole bunch of unannounced or kind of unverified updates from Google at the end of 2023. Then we had the October core update, October 23, and then we've had the March 2024 update. Like, they have been changing things so much. And what that does is shuffles the results around. Some people go up, some people go down.
Yeah. Do you feel like things will kind of even back out, or is that really hard to predict?
Very hard to predict.
Okay.
Yeah. Very,
you
very,
don't have
very
a crystal
difficult.
ball for us, Carl.
No. I wish. Nope.
I was hoping you'd bring that to the interview. It's fine, though.
I left it downstairs. Do you want me to get it?
Yeah, another time, next time. Okay, well, I mean, that is good to know, though. It's a little bit comforting to know that at least somebody's getting the traffic that's putting in the work, right? A creator who's doing the work, and it's not just the Reddit and Quora sites that are going up.
Exactly. Yeah. The searches are still happening. We're still seeing the food blogs at the top of the Google pages. It just seems to be a bit of a reshuffling of the order of them.
Yeah.
And we're still seeing people, and there's been certainly some panic and some, people are very frustrated, and I totally get it. It's heartbreaking to watch people's traffic tank. And we're just kind of now starting to get a few people coming out and saying, well, actually my traffic's up. I've had the best month ever. I've had the best quarter ever. I just got into Mediavine, for example, and that's because of the shuffle. Like, if the people that are losing traffic, that traffic's going somewhere else to another food blogger.
Yeah, that's very true. I have a few people in my mastermind group who, like, they're reluctant to say this because so many other people are experiencing the opposite, but they have had amazing months, like the best months ever in their businesses.
Yep. Yeah. And I kind of wish, and I understand people don't want to kind of brag when other people are hurting, but I kind of wish they'd be a little bit more vocal about it. It might help stop kind of some of the fear that we're seeing.
Right. No, that's a good point. Yeah. Speaking out, if not in a bragging way, but just like, hey, there's opportunity here. It's not lost. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then I'm curious to hear about the three-legged stool analogy. Can you talk through that?
Yeah, so the three-legged stool analogy is used to illustrate concept that, you need a combination of three essential items or three essential elements. And when it comes to SEO, those three things are: one, content, two, technical SEO, and three, backlinks, right? And those are big topics in of themselves, but you have to have the content. You need good content, good quality content that people are looking for. And this kind of means targeting the right keywords. So we need to be producing a piece of content that people are looking for in terms of the search volume, but also, and probably equally as important, that keyword needs to have kind of a difficulty level that your individual site has the ability to rank for. And by that, I mean, there's kind of no point in a brand new site, which doesn't have very many backlinks, putting up a chocolate cake recipe, because those have been on the internet since, the internet began. There'll be very, very difficult keywords. The sites that are at the top have very strong backlink profiles. So you could put up a fantastic chocolate cake recipe, but it's probably going to be too difficult. The keyword would be too difficult for you to rank for. So, I mean, that's super fast overview of content. Technical SEO, there's a lot that goes into technical SEO, including user experience, but it can be things like the site navigation. How easy is it for both site visitors as well as search engines to crawl through the content and to find the content. Is your navigation set up in such a way that Google can easily crawl and get to all of the content quickly? Or is a piece of content, if you're standing on the homepage and you're clicking the navigation, does it take you 6, 7, 8, 9 clicks to get to a piece of content? So we call that site architecture. How is the site navigation laid out? How do people get to pieces of content? User experience is big, and I think ads have a lot to do with user experience. And then of course the other element is backlinks. You have to have a strong backlink profile. And I think this is an area that people don't always focus on. It's hard. Building good backlinks is really hard. And it's no fun. People like to make their recipes, they like to do the photography. Trying to build backlinks is hard and no fun. So it's definitely an area I think sometimes gets neglected.
And it takes time. It takes, it's like a long game, right? You can't, I do know people who really dig in and build backlinks pretty quickly just because they put a focus on it. But I think if you're going to just create content and put peripherally your eyes on it, then it's going to take you some time. So you have to be patient.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you have thoughts about that? Like, do you have tips about ways to get backlinks?
Yeah, so in the food blogging space, of course, there's roundup groups. They're a great way to get backlinks from other related sites. Going on podcasts, coming on your podcast, or if you're a baker and there's baking podcasts, typically podcasters will link back to your site. Engaging with the media is also a good way to get backlinks. Probably better to start small. Like if you live in a small town, for example, or in a smaller area, smaller state, you're going to have a much easier time trying to engage with smaller local media than with, the New York Times, for example. What else? Write a cookbook, take your existing recipes, put them into a cookbook. And then from a link perspective, there's a whole bunch of websites out there that you can sell your cookbooks on, and they have author profiles. And from the author profile, you can link back to your own website. So obviously, this is good for backlinks, but I also like it because it demonstrates to Google that you're an expert in your field. You're not just putting up content, but you have a book, and it's distributed across these various sites. And Google's like, aha, okay, this isn't just some AI generated content, because those people don't do any of these things. They don't do any of this off-site stuff. So I think that's another really good way that people can, you can also monetize it. I'm thinking about this from a backlink perspective, but of course some people do very well in terms of generating revenue from the sale of their books as well. Right.
Yeah, you kind of hit a bunch of different areas there. And then you're not even talking about a hardcover book. This could be an ebook.
Yeah, a digital copy. There's lots of sites that will let you sell digital copies. So yeah, of course, if you want to go hardcover, go for it. But from the backlink perspective, it's really just getting up on those sites and getting your author profile filled out.
Yeah, and it's a good way to diversify just revenue and so many things that you could hit with doing that.
Exactly.
And then for the technical SEO that you mentioned, do you have any tips for food bloggers about any of that? I know you kind of said like user experience, navigation. Do you have any little details to mention that might be helpful within that number?
Yeah. So I think if you're running ads, I think ad density is really important in terms of put yourself in the shoes of the site searcher. And if they search for chocolate cake or whatever your keyword that you're targeting, if they land on your site and they can't find your content because you're running the default ad company, recommended ad density, people can't find the content. And what happens is they do what's called pogo sticking, and they will immediately hit the back button, go back to Google, and then click on a different result. And that's a really poor user experience signal to Google. And we know that Google's monitoring all of the users. So I think ad density has a lot to do with it. So I always recommend that people, If you're in the United States, pull up your site on your mobile phone and go to one of your posts and just scroll slowly from the top to the bottom and really watch for what on your screen is content and what on your screen is not content. So, we have email signups, we have, and of course, ads, right? Sticky video ads covering the screen. If you have an email pop-up which covers the screen, that's something I always recommend people don't run, is the pop-up. Can visitors even see your content? Unfortunately, I think the ad companies push far, far too many ads. They see, the solution to every problem is more ads.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important that people keep an eye on their ad density and essentially turn it down. And some of the people that I've been working with have turned down their ad density, and they've come back and they've said, you know what, my revenues has either stayed the same or gone up because they get more traffic, right? So it's this win-win situation where we end up with a better user experience. So the visitor's happy, the site owner, their RPMs go up or they get more traffic, they get more revenue, and so they're happy and everybody's happy.
Is there a certain magic number for that as far as ad density that you recommend?
No, not really. And the companies all do it differently as well. So it's really hard to say, this is the number.
Right.
But and sometimes it's not necessarily the percentage, but also the different elements. So for example, Mediavine, I think, still loves their ad arrival unit. You click on the jump to recipe button and they don't take you to a recipe, they take you to an ad. Ad Thrives or Raptives on mobile, they've got this huge sticky video that sits at the top of the screen, that completely covers the content. So it's not always just about a number. It's more about having a look at the individual elements, ad items in play.
It would be interesting to experiment with that because you're right. I go to my site on my phone sometimes and I'm like, what is going on? This is way, way, way too much. It's crazy.
Exactly. No, I definitely recommend people experiment with it. Turn it down or disable something. Take notes on, when you do it, what day do you do it. Watch your RPMs for a couple of days. Watch your revenue for a couple of days and see what happens.
Yeah, that's great advice. Okay, anything else about the three-legged stool analogy?
Content, technical SEO, backlinks. I mean, it's a massive, massive topic. Each one of those we could probably spend a day talking about. Yeah, but I think that's probably the overview.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Should we move on to HCU? So I know you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but HCU is the helpful content update. And you'll have to fill me in about when. Okay, so was that first rolled out in 2022, correct?
So yes, there was a product review update or a review update in, I think it was August of 2022 was the first iteration that I saw. It didn't really have any impact on food bloggers. There was a couple of sites in different spaces that I saw that were impacted, but didn't really seem to touch food bloggers at all. And then, of course, we had the September 2023, which was when basically Google rolled out the helpful content update, the first one that they started calling it helpful content update. And that had a massive impact on some sites. That was kind of when we first saw the big report of sites that were losing significant amounts of traffic.
Yeah. And then March of this year was another?
Yes, exactly. And now what they're saying is that they've kind of rolled it into their overall process. They're saying going forward, it's not going to be a standalone update like we've had in the last couple of years.
Okay. Well, yeah. And the whole naming of that is confusing for me because I feel like, is it helpful? And I think a lot of other people agree. Like, what do you think, Carl? Is this actually helpful for users?
I think the advice that you get from various sources to make your content more helpful is probably the most unhelpful advice we could ever get. And it's kind of offensive, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So if somebody's putting in the time and the effort to make good content, and then they're kind of getting this message, oh, your content's not helpful. And, how would Google actually even be able to determine if something is helpful? Google's an algorithm that is essentially reading the text on the page. They don't know if, you're supposed to cook a chicken at 375 degrees or 400, and, how long do you do it for? Basically, they consume the text on the page. They're looking for certain words, and they're watching the users, right? And I think this is critical, and we kind of touched on this before. We learned a lot. Well, not we learned. I guess we had confirmed in Google's antitrust trials last year just how much they're watching what people do. So basically what you want to do is what's called ending the search, right? So you want to be the piece of content that stops people searching. So what I mean by that is if I go to Google, I type in chocolate cake recipe, what most people do is they open up, they'll click on a link, they'll go to the site, and they might go back to Google, and then they click on another result. So Google's watching that, and you want to be the site that people then no longer do any more searches for. You want to end the search. So essentially your content is so good, your ad density is so low that your users are happy. You're making your users happy. They don't need to go anywhere else. And Google sees that.
Yeah, that's such a good way to look at it. Just be the search ender. Be the one that people end on so that they're not going back to anywhere else.
Exactly. And your content is so good. And so, I'm doing air quotes, but we're not on video. So helpful that you end the search.
And ways to do that, obviously you deliver quality content. You don't have a ton of ads that are annoying. Maybe you don't have email pop-ups everywhere. What else can we do to end that search?
Make it easy for people to find what they've come to look for. And you can use the opening paragraph on the page to essentially, let them know that they've come to the right place. So what I mean by that is if they've searched for chocolate cake recipe, they land on your page. Most of the time we've got an opening paragraph above a hero shot, and make sure that in that opening paragraph, you kind of reassure them that they've come to the right place. So, of course, you reiterate that this is a page for chocolate cake, and you might give a really brief overview as to why yours is so good.
Yeah.
So that they come to the page and they go, okay, I'm here. I found what I want. We have the jump to recipe button. We have all these things that reassure the searcher that they're in the right place.
I love that. And I love what you said earlier about just that being offensive. I've heard a handful of SEO experts say this too. They're just repeating what Google's saying, but it's like, make your content more helpful and then you'll be in the good graces. And I feel like, are you joking? We work so hard. I don't know anyone who works harder than food bloggers. It almost makes me want to cry. I'm like, I am extremely offended by that. If I look at everything I've ever created, I have poured my heart and soul into it. So to be told, make it more helpful, it's like, what? So I have to go back through all of my content with new eyes and somehow make it even better than better? Like, I just don't get that.
You're right. It's offensive. It's terrible advice. I think, unfortunately, some people just kind of parrot what Google says, and they just repeat whatever Google says. SEOs tend to end up in one of two camps. The first camp is they take everything that Google says, they believe it, and they basically just repeat it and regurgitate it. The other camp looks at what Google says and goes, really? And then they go away and they do tests, right? And they'll test something and they go, okay, what if I do this to my title tag, then what happens? If I put my keyword in this spot on the page and that spot on the page, what happens? And they're essentially trying to reverse engineer the algorithm. They don't believe anything that Google says, or they take it with a very large grain of salt. I'm very much in the second camp. I don't necessarily believe what Google says, and I either do my own testing, or there's people out there that their entire career is testing the algorithm, and then they charge for those results. So I pay for the access to that information, run my own tests, and then try to draw my own conclusions.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I appreciate the different ways that different experts go about that too. Because does it feel like Google even knows what's going on? Sometimes I feel like they say something and then it doesn't align with something they said a month ago. Like, do they even know what's going on? Does anyone know what's going on?
Yeah, I think sometimes they don't. Yeah, it's just gotten so big and so unwieldy.
Right.
There's so many moving parts. I don't even know.
Right.
Like they recently, was it a month ago? Their representatives were saying, "Oh, backlinks aren't very important anymore," and I just kind of went, "What?
Oh gosh.
What are you talking about? That is so misleading, so deceptive." That I just was really shaking my head at that one.
Yeah, seriously. And I get it on one hand because there's so many things happening right now, the updates they're putting out, but then also there's AI, and I know they're trying to protect sites against that. So I kind of feel for them. On one hand, it's like, yeah, they've got a lot going on and a lot to figure out. Do you agree with that?
Oh, for sure, for sure. They have a big problem on their hands. Now with generative AI, so things like ChatGPT or Gemini, or there's a whole bunch of them out there. Anybody can go to these AI systems and say, write me an article on chocolate cake and include a recipe. And you click a button, and then out comes this body of text, which it's got all the right keywords, and they can publish it. And Google's got a big problem on their hands trying to figure out what is AI generated garbage, which is really just rehashed, regurgitated text, versus genuine quality content. So yeah, they do have an issue on their hands for sure.
eBlog Talk is thrilled to unveil the eBlog Talk Accountability Group, an exclusive community made for food bloggers who crave accountability, focus, and connection. We understand that not everyone is ready to dive into the Mini Minds group or the Masterminds program. That is why we've crafted this special offering for bloggers like you who want that extra push toward their aspirations but aren't yet able to make the financial or time commitment. Here's what the eBlog Talk Accountability Group has in store for you for this low introductory price of $34 a month. This ongoing membership has its own private Slack channel. You will gain access to a dedicated channel facilitated by the community manager at eBlog Talk, Taryn Soley, for questions, insights, and collaboration. You will get weekly accountability check-ins so you can stay focused and motivated with those weekly check-ins in Slack to track and achieve your goals confidently. You will have access to productivity focus sessions. Join these optional live Zoom sessions twice a week to boost your productivity by working alongside your peers and tapping into that collective energy. And you will get monthly group Zoom calls replacing the former Clubhouse chats. Join these calls to connect, discuss current topics, share experiences, and celebrate achievements. Those calls will be hosted by me, Megan Porta, and I can't wait to see some of you there. If this sounds intriguing, head over to eatblogtalk.com/focus to sign up today. eatblogtalk.com/focus. So I've heard recently that not a lot, but there are some people who are creating these sites that are generating a lot of traction and revenue from AI alone. Is that right?
There certainly was at the end of last year, before we had the March 24 update. There was people that, not in the food space, but people in other spaces, were kind of building these sites and showing what they were doing on YouTube. And they would generate millions of page views, and they all got destroyed in March. Right? Their traffic all went to zero. I think a lot of that was actually manual penalties from Google. Okay. Google's like, no, you can't do this. You can't just use a bot to churn out 1,000 articles and post them in a day. So, but that said, I think there are still people that are using AI, and AI has its uses. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you can't use it, but I think the sites that are just saying write me an article and then copying and pasting the text, they're in trouble. But even for food bloggers, if you go, okay, I've been in the kitchen all day, I've been doing all my photography, it's late at night, my brain is fried. You can use AI to identify maybe topics that you hadn't thought of, like, give me an outline, or say, identify 10 important things, right? And then quality check them. You'd be like, you know what? 3 of these are garbage. I'm going to completely ignore that. But there might be 1 or 2 nuggets in there. You're like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. Or I'm tired. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yes, I will write that in my own words, in my own text, and include that. So it has uses, but I would be very concerned about anybody who was just generating a body of text and then copying and pasting that onto their website.
Right. And I think most food bloggers are not in that camp, and they are,
Exactly.
It's upsetting to hear that people have made that work, but very relieving also to hear that Google has found those sites out and that they can distinguish who is doing that and who is not. So I actually love hearing that.
It's definitely a space that's evolving, and we'll have to see what happens going forward.
Yeah. And then images too. It's crazy what AI is doing with images. I can't even believe, how does that even work? It just blows my mind.
Yeah, I haven't really played with that much at all.
I haven't either.
Other than doing some sort of outside of work things, I had ChatGPT generate some images, some cowboy images for my daughter, and they're kind of cartoon-like. Like you can really tell.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things I don't need another thing to do. So I'm just like, I'm not even going to, I'm not going there yet. But it is kind of crazy what I see on social media. Like, this is AI generated. And I'm like, what? That's insane.
Yeah. It is getting better and better for sure.
Yeah. And then something I've been hearing a lot lately from different experts, not just SEO, but all across the board, is just focusing on your brand, like being a brand and establishing that as your business. What do you think about that?
I'm totally in favor of that. I think that's one of the ways that Google is able to distinguish quality content creators from, essentially AI spammers. Because if you're, as well as, publishing your content on your website, but you also have a Pinterest account and maybe a Flipboard account, and, you're publishing content in other places, that then generates clicks from those other sources as well. So especially with Google Chrome, like Google's watching everything. And if somebody's using Google Chrome browser and they click on something in Pinterest and they come to your site, they spend a bunch of time on your site, Google's like, aha, this is quality content, because, not because they're actually reading the content, but because they're watching the users. So absolutely, I think building a brand is important. And really that means, being in other places other than just putting out content for search engines. So do the things that the brands are doing, be on other platforms, build that digital cookbook we were talking about earlier, and push that out to all the different sites.
I like what you said about that is signaling to Google that you are more than just AI. You are a brand when you are on, Pinterest and Facebook, and you have an ebook that somebody downloaded, that those are all signals that you're a human producing quality content.
Exactly. Google sees people interacting with your brand on other places that aren't just your own website.
Right.
And because of the Google Chrome browser, they literally see everything across the internet.
Yeah, that's a good reminder for all of us.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about affiliate situations? I know a few people who they were heavily focused on affiliate, like product reviews and things like that, and they were hit really hard in March. So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Absolutely. So there's been some articles that have made the rounds. People might have read an article from a site called HouseFresh, which was a product review site. And they, if I remember correctly, they were reviewing home air conditioning or home air filters or something. And essentially what they were doing is they were getting the products in and they were testing them and they were writing up reviews, and then they would drop an affiliate link. Right? That's how they monetize their site. And those product review sites have been completely decimated in the last few updates. So what I'm really concerned about, and okay, how do we relate that to food bloggers? What I'm quite concerned about is the sort of just general tend to drop affiliate links into your recipe card, drop affiliate links into the post. And a lot of people that I talk to, and I say, okay, I've run a scan on your site. I found across the entire domain, I found 20,000 Amazon links. What kind of revenue is that generating for you? Is this a revenue source that we need to worry about? And they're like, no, I make $25 a month. I'm like, okay, let's pull all of your affiliate links. So in that situation, now there are some sites that do very, very well with affiliate links, but I would say 90% of sites that I look at, there's hundreds or thousands of affiliate links, and they're generating no revenue, or such small amounts of revenue that these days I'm looking at this from a risk management perspective, and we're clearly seeing an impact in the product review space, other people who are using affiliate links. So I'm kind of basically today I'm saying, if you're not generating any revenue from your affiliate links or any, reasonable amount of revenue, I think there's a case to pull them all. We just don't know if Google is looking at your site as a pure affiliate site.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought of that, but I'm one of those people who makes like $10 a month or 15 maybe on a good month. Yep. And I don't have a ton of affiliate links, but enough that I could probably go back and just get rid of those. That's a good point.
And they tend to creep in over the years. People just get into the habit, and sometimes when I'm asking people, why are you doing this? And they're like, well, because all the other food bloggers I see are doing it. I'm like, okay.
Not a good reason, probably, right?
Yeah. If it's not generating revenue, I think from a risk management perspective, I would be inclined to pull them. Now, like I said, if somebody's listening and they're like, oh, I make thousands of dollars a month from affiliate links. Okay, you're in that sort of 5%, 10% of sites that's doing very well with affiliate links. I'm not saying that you should pull them.
Yeah.
But the people that just put them in and they're not even really sure why, or they think that they're helpful to the users, but they make $10, $15, $20, like, I don't know.
A lot of people do fall into that category, I think.
Yeah. And they just build up over time.
Yeah, they do. They do add up. We probably have more than we think on our sites. In my mind, I think I only have a few, but I probably have much more than a few.
That's why I started including a list of them. So when I'm auditing a site and I run my scans on the site, one of the things I give people is a spreadsheet. And they're like, oh my God, I had no idea.
Yeah, right. Sometimes we're just blissfully unaware of what's going on. Do you recommend food bloggers do the product reviews? Because I know some do like cookware reviews and blender reviews and things like that. Are those kind of done?
I wouldn't want to make a blanket statement saying that they're done. It's definitely something that I would be concerned about. But I think if you had, a few pages, like 1 or 2 or 3 pages on the site doing that, I think that's okay. It's when we just end up with thousands and thousands of links across the domain, that's when I'm concerned.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you have a page which is reviewing blenders, and then that one page might have some affiliate links on it, I think that's fine. Yeah. Okay. But again, if it doesn't make you any money, then the question is, well, do you still need it? Right. And not even thinking about that from an affiliate link perspective, but just across all of the content, stuff that's just been around for a long time. Have a look at the page views, have a look at if you're monetized, have a look at the revenue that it's generating, and kind of go, well, do I even need this anymore?
Yeah, good to evaluate. Something else I heard that is not in our notes, somebody was telling me the other day that an expert told them, so I'm getting this very third hand, that if you are one of those people who gives your recipes a 5-star rating, like your own rating, that those people are being dinged by Google. Have you heard anything like that?
I've seen a lot of confusion about this. I've seen people saying that Google has made statements about this. I've gone looking for Google statements and I can't find them. And I have a feeling that this has really been blown all out of proportion.
Okay.
The question was, if you rate yourself,
Right.
How would Google know? Google would have no idea. There's nothing in the code on the WordPress page that tells Google who did the review, right? So inside of your WordPress dashboard in the admin area, you can actually see the IP address of the person who wrote the comment, but that's not visible to search engines.
Okay. So they wouldn't know if you went through the back end, like, because the people I was talking to were talking about they put up their recipe and then maybe like WPRM recipe card on the back end, they go and they give themselves a 5-star rating that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually recommend that people do that. The reason I recommend it is because we want to that one, even if it's just 1-star rating, we want that to flow through to the Google page. So if you look at the recipe carousel and your listing in the recipe carousel, we can see the stars there. And if you don't have even 1-star rating, then for your listing, that line is blank.
Right.
And I feel that that can impact the click-through rate. Right? I'm not saying it's a ranking factor, but I do believe it's a click-through rate factor.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm aware of that discussion, and I know people who, again, like what you just said, it's come secondhand, thirdhand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, somebody show me where Google has actually made an official statement on this. I've been looking, I can't find it.
Okay.
So
Okay,
I really, from what I've seen, it seems to be blowing all out of proportion.
Okay. Well, that can happen, right? Lots of people talking about lots of different things.
Yeah, and then it's secondhand, thirdhand,
Exactly.
fourthhand information.
Right. I was trying to think of who even told me that someone told them about it, and I don't even know. So
yeah,
it's one of those things.
You remember that game, that little kids play
Telephone.
where you sit like 10, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
You set 10 little kids down on the ground and you say something into the ear of one, and then that's basically what we're talking about.
It's food blogger telephone. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's hilarious. We should just start some like random rumors and see what happens, Carl.
Yeah, exactly.
I heard this.
Give it a week.
Yeah, exactly.
Carl said this. Megan said that.
Yep. Oh, no, we won't do that. So what about SGE? I know that has been, so it's Search Generative Experiences, right? And that's been renamed to something. What has it been renamed to?
So this is Google's use of AI in the actual search result page. And for a long time, Google themselves was referring to it as Search Generative Experience, or SGE for short. And I think they've been talking about this for about a year, I want to say, something like that. And this is another thing I think that's caused a lot of concern. People are worried about it, worried what's going to happen. And it has just been officially released, I would say, a couple of weeks ago at the Google I/O event. Once a year, Google has this big event where they showcase a bunch of stuff. So it's officially released now, and they changed the name. So they changed it from SGE to now they're calling it AI Overview. And I know there's a lot of people that are very concerned about this. They're concerned about how it's going to look. And it's something that I've been monitoring and trying to of course, see what's changed. Because what we see on the Google page is so important, right, for getting traffic, that if Google is changing with the way that the Google page looks, obviously I'm very interested in, want to see what's going on. Now, since I'm in Australia, I actually have to VPN into the US. It's only available in the United States. And you actually have to go into your Google account and turn it on at the moment. At some point, they're saying that, it's going to be, this is the way it's going to be for everybody. It's been really, really unpopular. This has been in all kinds of news outlets, people talking about this. But essentially, the idea is you type something into Google, and instead of seeing the standard results or seeing the recipe carousel, you actually see an AI-generated overview of the topic.
Yeah.
The thing is, I can't get this to trigger right now for food-related searches. So anything with the word recipe in it, I can't get this to come up. Maybe a week ago, I typed in, say, just chocolate cake, right? I had an AI overview, and I have a screenshot of it somewhere. I'll send it to you so you can include it.
Yes.
But it's not what is there today. So in preparation for this call, I did exactly the same thing. I VPN'd into the US, made sure that I was getting AI overviews, typed in chocolate cake, and guess what? It's gone. So I'm not seeing it for food searches at the moment.
And this is good news, right?
Yeah. Well, yes, I think so. I mean, I think it's good in that at the moment there's no change, right? A lot of people don't like change, so nothing has changed that I can find at this point in time. It is definitely something that's evolving and changing. I know a lot of people were really concerned about it, but I think in the show notes you're going to include some screenshots where I was searching for, say, chocolate cake and then chocolate cake recipe, and having a look at the Google page, right? What do we see for Google? The other one was pumpkin soup versus pumpkin soup recipe. And for none of those searches was this AI coming up. So are they already starting to unwind it? We don't know. It was incredibly unpopular, but and there's been all kinds of news stories where they've just offered up terrible advice.
That's great.
Have you seen them?
I saw one funny one, but do you have any examples?
Well, I mean, one of them was for some horrible ones. I don't want to use any bad language on your show. There was one I saw. It was like, give me a list of food that ends in UM. And it said, yes, food that ends in UM includes strawberry banana
Oh my gosh.
Apple It just completely made it up.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
There was another one I saw that was recommending people eat rocks.
Oh, nice.
It's just getting it so wrong. It's so unpopular. Some people are thinking now that they might even just walk it back and turn it off. Who knows? We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen.
I personally scroll right past it. So I was seeing it for a long time too, for every search I did, food or otherwise. And it would just annoy me. Yes. And I just went on now and it's not showing up for food. I just searched a couple different food recipes. It's nowhere to be seen. But I would just every time and just scroll past it because it was just so ridiculous useless. Most of the time. Yeah, useless. Yeah.
And I think they're getting that feedback from everybody from all spaces. So I don't know if it's people really don't like it. It feels like something they would wind back, I guess. Right. I don't know. I obviously have no idea what they're going to do.
Right. Well, do we ever? But we will include those. I thought those screenshots were really interesting, so we'll put those in your show notes page for sure. But I feel like that is good news for us.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. But, on the other hand, if they do push ahead with it, the overviews that I've seen, had a bunch of almost unhelpful text, and then there was links right down at the bottom of the AI area. There was links, and there was probably 3 or 4 links. And as long as that's linking off to food blogs, then that's another way to get traffic. So will they change? Will they push forward with it? I have no idea. Yeah. But if they do, then it's going to be our challenge to figure out how do we get your site into that area.
Right. Yeah, that's a good, I don't know. It's almost like, let's just take it one thing at a time. There's so many things. Yep. So that's kind of my go-to lately.
Yeah, so much going on at the moment. And a lot of it is outside of our control. Mm-hmm. What's the expression about, not worrying about things that you can't control? Like, we can control our site, we can control our social media profiles, we can control our cookbook. We really need to focus in on the things that we can control. And the other stuff, it's just need to see what happens. And the thing about Google is that, and they have even come out and said that, they're still going to send traffic to sites. They're still, because they actually make a lot of money out of sending traffic to sites. They're actually involved in the ad side of business as well. So they make money by of course, selling ads that appear in the Google page, but they also make money from sending traffic to people's websites as well. So they're a business, they'll be sitting there, they'll be watching how it changes their revenue. I believe that if they do push ahead with the AI stuff, that there will be opportunities to figure out how to get food blogs into that spot on the Google page.
Yep. Well, it'll be interesting to see it evolve even more, right? See what happens.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the last topic, I think, this is very fresh, but you were telling me a little bit about it. The Google leak. What is going on with this?
So at the time of recording for it's late May, this only happened 36 hours ago. There was a leak of Google technical documentation. So this isn't, the algorithm. This isn't the formula for ranking, but it's technical documentation explaining or describing variables that Google uses. And there was something like 14,000 different variables, in this documentation. And of course, right now the SEO industry is on fire. Everybody is just going nuts about this. I think people are making a lot of assumptions. And of course, when it came out, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And I spent hours reading through it. And I kind of went, well, what we don't know is the kind of strength of each of these variables. So we don't know kind of the weighting, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. The interesting thing is that it does confirm the existence of some things that Google has kind of long denied. But so, for example, domain authority, right? In this Google doc, Google has forever said they have no concept of domain authority. They have no, number like Moz does for domain authority. Interestingly, in this technical documentation is something called site authority. So again, we don't know how it's used. We don't know how it's calculated, but it appears that there is this concept of site authority that Google is using. And I think anybody who has been doing SEO for a long time understands the correlation between backlink profile and rankings. So, even though they denied that they didn't use Moz's domain authority, I don't think anybody actually expected they uses that number. But I think it's been long assumed that they had their own sort of calculation for it. So, it's, yes, huge topic. Everybody's going crazy over it at the moment. I think there's a lot of assumptions that are being made as well. I think we need to be really careful about any conclusions that are drawn from it. And kind of after I spent a few hours looking through it, I mean, I couldn't not look.
Yeah.
Not look at it. And I kind of was like, well, there isn't really anything new, right? There isn't anything brand new that I've learned from this. It was a lot of things that SEOs have kind of reverse engineered over the years from the algorithm. It's a bit of validation, I think, for some people, but it doesn't change the game in terms of how we make content, how we do kind of all the technical side of things we talked about earlier in the call. Nothing changed for me after I spent, first I was all excited and I spent a few hours reading and I went, oh, nothing changes.
Oh, okay.
There's nothing that I've learned that's new that I would start changing.
Okay. So anticlimactic a little bit. Yeah,
a little bit. I mean, it is brand new and that could change. There was one thing that was a little interesting. There was it's a flag for highlighting if a site is what they call a small personal blog. And I was like, why are they doing that? Right? We don't know. We don't know why they might be flagging sites as a small personal blog. And we don't know what they do. Even if, let's say, my site was flagged as this,
right? We
have no idea what happens, down the track from that.
Oh.
I think, though, it's just another, we already knew that we don't want to be a small personal blog. We want to be a big brand. So I think it just reinforces stuff we already knew.
Yeah. Wow, that is interesting. Yeah, like what exactly are we flagging here and what's going to happen? Huh.
Yeah. Don't know. Definitely something to watch, but
nothing to worry about, right?
I don't know when this is going to go up on your site.
Yeah.
But today it's brand new. It's only 36 hours old.
Well, hoping to get this published sooner rather than later. I love all the information you shared. Thank you so much. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you wanted to make sure to mention?
I don't think so. I'm just kind of skimming. Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground. I'm not sure how long we've been going, but we covered a lot of ground. I'm skimming through the notes that I sent you before, and I think we've covered it.
Okay. So to end, I would love to hear your answer to the question again. Should we give up or should we keep at it?
Absolutely keep at it. SEO is definitely not dead. And I think it's very easy for people to prove this to themselves. Go to Google, type in your keyword, your recipe keyword. Do you see food blogs at the top of the page? If the answer is yes, keep going. SEO is not dead.
Thank you, Carl. This is going to be such a relief for so many people. I know we need to hear this right now. So we just really appreciate you showing up in this way. And it's such a just gentle way too. Like we were talking about earlier, that whole you need to create more helpful content. That's not helpful when we're already emotional and feeling like wrecks. So we appreciate it.
Not at all. Not at all. If food bloggers work incredibly hard, the sites that I look at, the content that I see, there's so much effort and face it, love that's gone into making this content. Yeah. It's good content. Food blogging is competitive. Food blogging is a very competitive space, and it got even more competitive in the pandemic. How many people do you know that started a food blog in the pandemic? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now those sites, they're 4 years old. They're starting to build up some authority. They're building up their library of content. So it's more competitive.
Well, thank you, Carl. We appreciate you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of eBlog Talk. Don't forget to rate and review eBlog Talk on your favorite podcast player. Thank you, and I will see you next time.